I'm going to preface this video by telling you all a little secret. My reading tastes are not varied. They either involve a paranormal being or romance, or both. In an attempt to branch out this spooky season, I wanted to dive straight into the deep end, straight into weird girl literary fiction. But what is weird girl lit fic? After many hours and many sleepless nights of scouring the internet looking for an answer, I interpret weird girl lit fic to mean books that use the experience of womanhood or girlhood as their main focal point, with the addition of fantastical, supernatural, horror, or magical realism elements. With that being said, there are plenty of lists that detail where to start your weird girl lit fic journey, and I chose two of probably the most popular books that I've seen on these lists. We have Bunny by Mona Awad, and we have Nightbitch by Rachel Yoder. Bunny centers around Samantha Heather McKay. She's an outsider in her small, highly selective MFA program at Warren University. In fact, she is utterly repelled by the rest of her fiction writing cohort, a clique of unbearably twee rich girls who call each other Bunny. But then the bunnies issue her with an invitation, and Samantha finds herself inexplicably drawn to their front door, across the threshold, and down their rabbit hole. And Nightbitch involves a full-time stay-at-home mum of her 2-year-old. Her husband, always traveling for work, calls her from faraway hotel rooms. One more toddler bedtime and she fears she might lose her mind. Instead, she starts gaining things, surprising things that happen one night when her child will not sleep. New appetites, new instincts, and from deep within herself, a new voice. Without further ado, let's get reading. As you all saw, I started reading Bunny by Mona Awad yesterday. I have never really read any sort of weird literary fiction of this caliber. So if you don't know, Bunny is about Samantha Heather McKay being an outsider in her small, highly selective MFA program at Warren University. What the fuck did I just read? So I read 50 pages yesterday and I'm on page 115 now, which is considerable because I work 9 to 5. So I read before work today during my lunch break. I just want to keep reading this because I need to know what is happening. As it says in the back, she gets invited to their, it's called like the smut salon, and they do these weird readings of poetry that are meant to be erotic, and they make her read this erotic story that she essentially has to make up because she's like, I don't do anything outside of the house, you know, I don't have all of these, you know, erotic stories to tell. So she makes one up about, well, not makes one up, so she sort of extends the truth about this guy that she did a play with, and they were, you know, the lead, or they were, I don't know if they were the lead, but they were like the main couple or one of the main couples, and they essentially die by electrocution at the end of it, like each play. And anyway, she turns it into this erotic, like, oh, you know, it felt like we were dying together, and then she pretends like they slept together. The way that she describes her view of other people is very assumptive. She'll look at somebody, and based off of how they're looking at her, or based off of body language or something like that, she'll just come up with these absolutely insane views and what she thinks they're thinking. And so she looks at the main bunny, or the, you know, the queen bee of the bunnies, the queen bunny, if you will, apparently looking at her in a way that she knows how the story ends, which is that they actually don't sleep together and they just cease to exist outside of the realm of this play. And then her only friend kind of goes ghost. Her friend doesn't like the bunnies at all, and obviously Samantha likes to pretend that she doesn't like the bunnies and will constantly bitch and complain about them. So she goes ghost, so then that pushes Samantha to go to the bunnies because she was invited to this other party. So she turns up to this party, and it's a dress-up party, it's a themed party, sort of like a prom homecoming type shindig. Then they invite her in, and they're like, oh, you know, like, can we dress you up, and they do her hair and they do her makeup and they do her dress. So then they go into this other room, and there are these 4 men there, just really standoffish and acting strangely. The girls are like, oh, you know, we have a surprise for you, just wait. So then she's surrounded by these 4 men who are just suddenly asking all of these really random questions about her, and, oh, you know, Samantha, we really want to get to know you, Samantha. In the background, there's this screeching happening, and Samantha's like, can anyone else hear that? Like, what is happening? And I don't know if you know this, but when actual bunnies are stressed or like when their body is under stress or when they are stressed, they start screaming. It's horrific. It's a horrific thing to hear if you've ever heard it. I wouldn't Google it because it's traumatizing, and as somebody who has heard it, this made me so uncomfortable. But I had to know what was happening. The screaming stops. The girls come back into the room. They were like in the attic or something. She's like, did anyone else hear that screaming? Like, where was that screaming coming from? And they're like, oh, it must have been, there's always screaming. Or like one of the girls is like, I have a condition, blah, blah, blah. And then they're all looking at the front door, and then there's a knock at the front door, and they're like, Samantha, you should answer it. And mind you, she's in somebody else's house. She's like, why would I answer the door? Anyway, so they push her to answer the door, and it's the dude from high school. And he's just standing there, but he's really fucking weird. Some of the things he says just don't make sense. But I mean, obviously, Samantha's in shock, and she's like, oh my god, like, what the hell? Like, he looks exactly like he did all those years ago, but now he's just, grown up essentially. And they're talking, and then they go back into the room, the main room, because they were sort of taking a fiver out in, one of the other rooms. So Samantha's dancing with Rob, and then she starts looking around, and the guys are chewing on random things, dress straps or part of their hair or really weird bunny-like things. And then she feels the spaghetti strap of her dress being pulled on, and it's Rob chewing on it. Okay. So then she's like, hey, cut that out. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Slaps him in the face, and then he just loses his shit. He's angry, and he's just got this hatred, and he's saying all of these things that he shouldn't know. He goes on this entire tangent, this rage, hate-fueled tangent, and then just starts screaming. And then the 4 other men start screaming. And then Rob's head explodes. What? Anyway, but that's where we left off. I'm fucking with it. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but I'm with it. I'm going to check in with you guys about Bunny, because what is life? What is anything? Am I in a fever dream at all times? That is how this book is making me feel. I'm at page 61. And at this point, she has both been introduced to the bunnies, become a bunny herself, then been kicked out of being a bunny. At one point, I didn't even know if we were counting the chapters. I had to go back, and then I realized that the chapter in which she's a bunny is only 1 chapter long. And it felt so much longer than that. The whole process felt so much longer than that. Obviously, there are bits prior to her actually becoming a bunny, but she's like a bunny for 4 months, and it just feels like this big fever dream of what is happening, and they're all hugging and becoming one with one another, and they can't get close enough to each other. And also they're making men out of rabbits. How they're doing that, I couldn't tell you. They also couldn't tell you, apparently. It's just something they can do. They're just making men out of screaming bunnies, and the bunnies explode, and they take these pills. They're essentially just these little drug addicts that pretend to be bunnies in their mid-20s. What the deeper meaning of all of this means, I couldn't tell you. I feel like in a really weird way I relate to the main character, just in the sense of she has this really angsty, really anxious way of viewing people and things and the life around her. I mean, now that she's not with the bunnies, her life is fairly shit. She also doesn't have her best friend. Her best friend just up and left. And so she's, spending Christmas by herself, and it's definitely rough for her, but she just has this inherently anxious, angsty way of seeing life and the people around her. And I don't know if I can just relate to that because I have an anxiety disorder. This chick probably definitely needs to talk to a therapist of some kind, but I also understand where she's coming from in having that mindset. Again, I don't know if that's just because of how my brain works, and people would look at that and think, whoa, that's really negative. Yes, it's negative, but it's just so normal as well. It's not coming across as this, oh, I'm just anxious, oh, I'm just this, oh, I'm just that. It's quite literally ingrained in the person that she is. But it also makes I understand that the bunnies are just a fantastical part of it, but there is that other meaning of wanting to be accepted and wanting to be a part of a group and wanting to have good friends as another woman, but also still feeling that, oh, the way that they're looking at me seems mean, or backhanded compliments. They're still bitching about somebody, but in a way that is so backwards and trying to be like complimentary. I get it, but it's also being told again in just this obscure way. But I'm really enjoying my time. Again, I've probably only been reading this book for about 3 days, but I'm flying through it. I'm towards the end, pretty much at the 3/4 mark now. There's also this man that I'm not sure if he's real or if he's a bunny, or if he just happened to be where the bunny leapt towards, and then he's claiming that the bunny was like taken by a wolf. I don't actually really know, and I don't know if there's some deeper meaning to this man, but I assume we'll discover that within the book. I cannot for the life of me figure it out. I want to know how this turns out, and I don't know if it's just going to be this like sudden ending. I've even got my partner wanting to read this book because I explained it to him and he was like, sign me up, let me borrow the book when you're done. Absolutely. I mean, he won't get the female experience part of it, but it's weird and he likes weird. In the most twisted way, I understand the main character. This is so weird, girl coded. I understand why it's both liked and so heavily disliked at the same time. I think this book is like at a 3.8 or something on Goodreads. I mean, Goodreads is obviously subjective, but I see why if you love it, you love it. If you hate it, you hate it. Like, you really hate it. I can't remember if the last time I checked in with you was when I finished Bunny, but I finished Bunny and I felt like I needed a cigarette afterwards, and I don't even smoke. Over halfway done with Nightbitch. At the start, I was relating so heavily to this book, and now that we're in this portion, I wouldn't say that I relate. It's fucking weird, man, and I knew that going into it, but I didn't anticipate having such a good time and relating so heavily to what was being said. I don't fully relate to this ambient. If you've read it and I can say that I relate to it, there's probably something not right up here. But I'm having a good time, an interesting time. You know, she's transforming into the Nightbitch. That's all I can say, really. This book is a book you need to experience and not one that I can explain to you. Oh, that's probably a better descriptor. I'm having an experience, like a soulful experience. I didn't anticipate liking these books as much as I did. This update feels incredibly overdue, but we're going to ignore that because I am almost done. Almost done with this book. It has been a time. It has been an experience. It was so feminine rage. So many of the passages in this book just resonated deep within me. It's so well written and it's so immersive. The turn that this took, I knew that it was called Nightbitch, but wow. Going to put a spoiler portion in here because I feel like I need to for my own sanity. And if you don't want to know, then skip past it. I'll put a little timestamp here. But essentially we start off with, she's a stay-at-home mum. She used to be a creative, but then when it came time to figure out who was going to stay home to watch the child, it became a who gets paid more sort of situation. So the dad would go off to work. He's away like every week and then would come home on the weekend. So essentially the mother is a single mother. I just want to point out as well, you don't actually get the name of the mother. She's just referred to as mother, which I think really plays in well to the entire book because the whole book is just about whether or not you simply cease to exist without the child that you're watching as a stay-at-home mother. But at the start, it's all feminine rage. You light a fire early in your girlhood, you stoke it and tend it, you protect it at all costs. You don't let it rage into a mountain of light because that's not becoming of a girl. You keep it secret, you let it burn, you look into the eyes of other girls and see their fires flickering there, offer conspiratorial nods, never speak aloud of a near unbearable heat, a glowing conflagration. And then there's this other portion, obviously it's called Nightbitch, and she does this whole monologue about the word bitch. And I don't know about anyone else, but the word bitch is just a different level of slanderous. Bitch just had a ring to it, that condemning, inescapable ring, a ring that fucker or asshole could never fully conjure for a man. Bitch was flat and sharp and final. She thought of a bored, small-town bureaucrat in a shabby little office with orange carpet and flickering fluorescent bulbs, stamping official yet pointless documents with clicking metal thuds. Bitch, 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 thank you, have a nice day. Truly, snaps for that entire fucking paragraph. If you feel feminine rage in any capacity, the first half of this book will just make you so geared up and ready for war. I don't know what you would war against, but just ready for war. I would have never picked this book up. I maybe would have picked Bunny up. The change from the start to the finish of this woman, of this she is just finding herself and fighting the man, and also recognizing how important it is and how strenuous and how hard it is to raise a child as essentially a single mother, and then fighting for that, you know, how hard it is. Especially her husband, who would, you know, come home after his week away of working and then, oh no, I'm too tired, oh I just want to sit on my PC, or I just want to do this thing, I need time to decompress. I've had a long drive home. Okay. And? Put your kid to fucking bed. What? God, I love women. I love crazy women. They're just so empowering. How I look is a pretty apt description of how I feel on the inside after reading these books for a week. I won't go into too much because I know that a lot of what I said throughout the video was spoilery, but to do a quick summary, I really enjoyed my week of reading these weird girl lit fic books. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, to be very honest with you. I'll start off with my thoughts on Bunny. Now obviously a lot of people have read Bunny because it's I would say it's probably more infamous than it is famous. And I'm definitely one of the girls who gets it. It's a very particular writing style, and if you don't enjoy it, you will absolutely hate the book, and that is so valid. But again, I really enjoyed it. The ending was surprisingly upsetting, more so than what I anticipated. I didn't anticipate an emotional response to the end of that book, but I got one. Overall, I enjoyed how immersive the writing was. I will definitely pick up another book by Mona Awad. Maybe not in the near future because I need a little bit of a break. Just a little bit. But overall, for me personally, I thought the writing was really capturing. I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. I gave it 5 stars. If you want to give it a try, then give it a try. It's very in your face, that is for sure. A great first introduction into weird girl lit fic. And then we have Nightbitch. The artistry that you see in this book, and then the way that I feel personally with it being an experience, I just like that completeness, I guess, of this book being about a struggling artist, and then the book being art in itself, an art of self-discovery and of feminine rage, and of being able to really eloquently describe the female experience. Maybe not for everyone, again, it's all subjective, but there was so much that I resonated with in this book. And maybe it's just because I'm angry. Maybe I'm too angry. I'm probably too angry. But so much of the first portion of this book just felt so affirming. I feel pretty reserved in terms of wanting to rate this because I don't feel like it's a book to be rated. Again, I feel like it's a book to be experienced. So I'm not going to rate it. There's a lot of internal conflict happening. Maybe I'm looking too deeply into it, but what's the point of reading if you're not trying to get too deep into things, I guess. I definitely would not recommend this book to everyone. That is Nightbitch. This experiment was relatively eye-opening to me. Also, I think that I ended up taking off some of the lettering by accident. So if you have wet hands, probably don't touch this book. Yeah, this week was eye-opening to me. These books were eye-opening to me, considering, as you guys can see, what I read, which is romance and fantasy and monster romance and things that are not of this caliber, of this genre. I had a surprisingly really good time. This was a bit of a different video for me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed having the theming because, as I've said, I literally said in another video that I thrive best in a weekly video setting, and then I go and do a themed video. Make it make sense, but also I really had a good time this week. I think if you wanted to read Bunny, I think give it a shot. Maybe borrow it from your library, and I will definitely pick up more books like this in the future, but I think I'm going to take a break. Probably read a romance, because that's the person that I am intrinsically. I was put on this earth. That was a bold statement. If all I was put on this earth to do was talk about books and read romance and have a silly goofy time, who am I to say no? Who am I to interfere with the will of the creator? You know what I'm saying? I'm feeling very philosophical after Nightbitch. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments. Let me know your feedback. Again, this was really structured. I do intend to do this again. I'll be honest with you guys. Maybe not with this genre, but maybe with romance or something of like, but just a themed video, because I did enjoy it. But if you guys didn't enjoy it, yell at me in the comments and tell me never to do this again, and just stick to what I know, which is filming B-roll all week and then maybe making it through one book, because that's the 9-to-5 life, baby. I hope you're having a good day, a good week, a good month, and I'll catch you in the next video.